What's going on there, YouTube? And welcome to Fresh Comic Stories. Guys, this is the channel that we basically sit down and cover different kinds of comic book stories. Now, today, we are going to jump back over to Marvel and continue our coverage over Spider-Man, but continue our coverage over the Brand New Day era. Remember, the Brand New Day era took place right after One More Day. And so this whole Brand New Day era was supposed to be Marvel trying to rework Spider-Man in a different way. Now, we already covered two storylines, and today we're going to pick up with a third storyline that does give us another villain for Spider-Man to fight against. Now, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, please hit that like button down below and also subscribe for more comic book stories like this in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below. But let's go ahead and dive into Brand New Day Part 3. Now, getting back into Brand New Day, we actually pick up in the wake of our last video, where we got introduced to a new villain named Menace, and Spider-Man is being blamed for murder, because there are dead bodies out there with the spider tracers in their mouths, making it look like Spider-Man is the one who is killing these people. And since the new villain who also killed the candidate who was running for mayor in our last video, Spider-Man is being blamed for that as well. Dexter Burnett, the new owner of the Daily Bugle, since JJ has lost the company, is ordering his staff to run a paper that is calling Spider-Man a murderer. We also see again that people do not like working for Dexter at all. Like, people are wanting to quit and find a new job. But we see him send Peter off to get photos of the funeral of the candidate for the mayor who was killed in our last video. And this does lead to a quick one-page setting where Peter goes to the funeral and sees the girlfriend of Harry. Her name is Lily Hollister, and she is at the funeral with her father, William Hollister. Now, Peter overhears that maybe William could be running for mayor now, since there is an opening in the running for mayor in New York. But the story shifts over to the Feast Foundation, which is a place Aunt May works at that feeds the homeless. Peter is there to help out with the place, but while they are working, someone named Freak decides to steal the donation box. And this is us getting introduced to another character in the Brand New Day era. Freak is right now just a low-level thug, and he does try to run off with the money, and Peter, of course, changes into his Spider-Man outfit to bring him back in before he is able to get away with the money. This does lead into Spider-Man actually being able to stop Freak from getting away. Now, while he is leaving, you have two cops try to arrest Spider-Man. Well, really one cop, but the other one stops his partner from even trying. This guy name is Vic, and he's going to play a role down the road in Brand New Day's era. Now, you have the two cops go to the rooftop and try to get Freak since Spider-Man left him all webbed up. But Freak was able to escape by just sliding out of his clothes and ran off. Now, we see Freak does run on the rooftops, but he does run into some lab where he finds a bunch of new chemicals, and we see Freak is thinking about injecting himself with the new stuff. But back over at Feast, we see Vic return the money back to Aunt May. This is the first time ever in comics that Vic and Peter actually do meet, and this does begin their new friendship. And then for one quick page, once again, we do see Freak is throwing up and his body is forming and turning into a bunch of different forms. The chemicals are really doing a number on him. And we see him form into what seems like a cocoon out of nowhere. This is where we jump over to Peter meeting up with Harry Osborn, Lily Hollister, and Carly Cooper. Remember that Carly Cooper is this potential girlfriend for Peter, but we pick up with them at some party. Now, at this party, you have Lily trying to take in donations and also have people sign the petition as a way to convince her father, William Hollister, to run for mayor. This leads to Harry giving a bunch of money, but you have Peter also say he will donate money as well. But Carly stops him from doing that since she knows that that man is dead broke. But also, this is building up on Carly and Peter possibly dating down the road. This is where we jump over to Freak once again, and we see that his cocoon has been found by a random person, and this leads to a TV channel putting it on the news. Like, hey, there is some cocoon here in the middle of the city. This leads to a bar called Bar with No Name, and we pick up with a character named Booker, which he's taking bets on what the cocoon can be, and which hero is going to be involved with this cocoon down the road, which we already know is going to be Spider-Man. That is when we jump back over to Freak breaking out of his cocoon. This is us seeing Freak as a creature now, and he looks freaking horrible. Now when he pops out, Spider-Man is there, but he is just watching to see what happens. We also see Vic and his partner Alan, who again are the police officers from earlier, they're at the scene as well. But Alan does not want to wait to see what happens. Alan just shoots Freak right in the head, and it seems like he just killed Freak. But Freak's body falls into the sewers, but when he gets into the sewers, we see that Freak's body just went back into cocoon once again, telling us that he is not dead just yet. Then we see Dr. Kirk Connors, who is also, by the way, the Lizard, stop by the lab of Carly Cooper. Remember, Carly works for the CSI department for the police, and she's looking at samples of Freak that was left behind. Now you have Dr. Connors asking to take some of the samples of Freak from Carly because he tells her that it could prevent something bad from happening down the road. Now, jumping back over to Freak, we see that he is coming out of his cocoon once again, but this time we see him in a new form. This is stating that with the chemicals that he had injected himself with from earlier, all it did was give him the ability to adapt to anything. So even he gets shot in the head or falling in water, his body will recover. Then his body will change forms where he'll be able to adapt to those things. And so Freak sees his face, and this begins his hatred towards Spider-Man and wanting to kill him, of course. This leads to Peter getting a call from his boss Dexter and tells him that his next job is to get pictures of a guy named Crowney who is also running for mayor. The Daily Bugle is really supporting this guy, and so they need photos of the man. And so Peter goes there to take pictures, but the problem is though, Freak arrives. This is huge because this leads to a battle in the middle of the streets between Freak and Spider-Man. Of course, Spider-Man has no idea how to beat this guy since his body is just adapting to everything basically. But in the middle of the battle, Freak is about to throw something that can kill Crowney. And this leads to another question where, are we going to see the death of another person who was running for mayor? This, of course, leads into Spider-Man being able to save Crowney before he is killed by Freak. And we continue this battle between Freak and Spider-Man all over New York until Freak just stops out of nowhere, where we come to find out that he smells meth from far away, which Freak is a drug addict, and the smell of drugs made him leave Spider-Man behind and go see where he can find the source of meth that he is smelling. Spider-Man, of course, follows him to the meth lab, and they begin their battle once again in the lab. But this leads to Freak actually being able to beat down on Spider-Man, but while they are fighting, the meth lab catches on fire, and this leads to Spider-Man having to find a way to get free before the place blows up. He does that, but the building does blow up. Now Spider-Man is able to switch back into looking like Peter Parker, make it seem like that he was just there to get photos. But for Freak though, it does seem like he is dead once again. We all know that Freak is still alive, and he'll come back in a new form later on down the road. And we pick up with Peter back in his Spider-Man outfit visiting J. Jonah Jameson at the hospital. If you remember, back in our first Brand New Day video, Jonah had a heart attack and of course was sent to the hospital. But his wife Marla was the one who sold the paper to Dexter Burnett to keep Jonah healthy. But this leads to Spider-Man and Jonah at first acting like they are coming to a truce and becoming friends, until Spider-Man tells him about the fact that he is no longer the owner of the Daily Bugle. And this is huge because Marla never told Jonah about her selling the paper. This leads to Jonah having another heart attack, but Spider-Man and the doctors were able to save his life. This is where we see the story kind of wrap up, where you have Spider-Man go back to being Peter Parker. Then he goes over to another party with Harry Osborn, Lily Hollister, and Carly Cooper. Now, this is important for the transition of the story, because you have Peter talk to Carly one-on-one, where she informs him about how she met with Dr. Connors and how she gave him samples of Freak. Now Peter freaks out because he knows that Dr. Connors was the Lizard because he was trying to regrow his lost arm. And so Peter thinks that he is trying something new and could lead to him becoming the Lizard once again. And that leads to Peter running over to the lab of Dr. Connors to see what he is up to. That is when we come to find out that the lab Freak broke into earlier that made him into what he is now, that lab actually belonged to Dr. Kurt Connors, and that is why Dr. Connors was meeting up with Carly Cooper, because he is trying to find a way to cure Freak or at least stop him before things get worse. That is when Spider-Man learns more about the powers of Freak, where he is able to adapt to anything after experiencing that certain thing. And so now Spider-Man has to find Freak before he comes back even stronger. Now, of course, after a few pages of Spider-Man and Dr. Kurt Connors talking to one another, you do have Dr. Kurt Connors hand Spider-Man some kind of chemical that can be used as a way to stop Freak. And so now the goal for Spider-Man is to go find Freak and stop him before he comes back even stronger. The problem is, though, when Peter goes back to the building he last fought Freak at, the same one that got blown up, Freak is no longer there. Because the city of New York actually cleared out the building debris and said, hey, it's all clear for now to be rebuilt. And the problem is, though, Freak was still attached to the debris of the building. And so now Spider-Man has to go find Freak somewhere in the city. The question is, though, where is he? And the story actually ends with Spider-Man going out there in the world to find Freak before he's able to come back stronger. But anyways, guys, we're going to go ahead and end today's video right here. So please leave me a like down below and also subscribe for more comic book stories in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'm out of here and I will see you on the next comic book video. Later, guys.